Okay, and we are recording. Again, welcome everybody to our March Assessment Committee meeting. We have a couple of things on our agenda today. I will try to share the agenda. Let's see if I can do that. All righty, can everybody see the agenda? Okay, unfortunately, folks, I cannot see you while I'm sharing. So feel free to unmute. Yeah, thanks, Liz. Feel free to unmute and speak up here. Okay, so assessment committee agenda. All right, so the first thing is program review status. I don't think Christina's in the call yet.
Marianne, you're not sharing the agenda, you're sharing like the WebEx.
Okay, that's really weird. Okay, let me go back over here. We can fix that. Thank you, Yvette. All right, that should be the agenda. Better?
Yep, that's it.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Sometimes the dual screens, you're not sure what you're clicking on when you share. Okay, so again, program review status. At the last Academic Affairs Council meeting, Christina proposed that at the last College Standards Committee meeting, Christina proposed that committee oversee at least the non-instructional program review. And I know a subgroup is meeting today to consider possibly a broader oversight, possibly of academic as well as the non-instructional program reviews. So that is something that's currently in process. And again, that would purely be oversight. I mean, we would still be writing our program reviews as we normally do. And I'm assuming the assessment committee would still be archiving those and whatnot. It's just more or less of a supervisory structure change, to make sure that things happen in a timely way. Also, we presented our revised academic program review template and rubric to the Academic Affairs Council as an informational item. What we did there was we made a few changes to the template purely for clarity, and significant changes were made to the rubric to make sure the section numbers align. Okay, so it wasn't really any content change. It was more or less a clarity and alignment change to make sure all of that is easy for people who are looking at the program reviews with an eye towards making recommendations, are able to follow the sections and fill in recommendations for each section on the rubric. Anybody have any comments about that? Questions, concerns? Okay, not hearing any. We'll move forward. Okay, as far as program assessment status, essentially what we're trying to do in spring of 2025 is we're trying to get all of our academic programs who have not yet completed a program assessment plan and one aligned assessment to do that before the end of the spring. Okay, based on our HLC status, we are going to be under somewhat continual monitoring, at least for the next year and a half. Okay, so we're going to have to show evidence of progress. That is really what the HLC wants to see is, okay, you told us what your outline for a program learning outcome assessment is. Now we want to see that you can sustain that. Okay, so basically, we have gotten feedback from all of the CFAS programs, except for music business, but my understanding from our VPAA is that program is on moratorium right now. So we will not need to do program assessment or a program review for music business. MSE, we kind of have a bit more of an issue. Namely, there is no physics RFP. We have an adjunct faculty, our former physics instructor was kind enough to come out of retirement and help us this semester. So we have no program assessment plan or any aligned assessment for physics. And the same is true of geology. Okay, so we're still working those two issues. And if we could possibly get some help from our STEM folks that are on this committee, that would kind of be really appreciated. Okay, again, we're trying to not only get not new programs, but programs who haven't yet completed a plan up and running. We have to also make sure all of the programs that have done a plan and done one aligned assessment keep doing it this semester, right? So it's not a one and done. It's kind of a go back to your assessment plan, look and see what you were going to assess in spring of 25 and make sure you do that. Okay. So it's kind of a big job for just the two of us, for me and Brian, to do by ourselves. So if you could kind of help us, that would be terrific. All right. And as far as co-curricular assessment is concerned, we have two areas that we have to, again, show ongoing co-curricular assessment because we put them in our mid-cycle report, okay? And that is student life and honors. And we've sent out emails to both of those, program leads and basically letting them know that that's something that, again, that we're going to have to touch base with them. Brian, did you have a comment? Did you want to say something about that? I saw you on mute for a minute. Anybody have comments about any of that stuff? Okay, again, we would really appreciate some of you helping us. Again, Liz has been very kind to help with getting the CFAS programs on board. So again, yeah, Yvette, you have your hand up.
Yeah, Marianne, I'm just wondering, so when you say you need help with those program reviews, do you mean, like, do you want assistance writing them?
No, we're not talking about program review here, Yvette. We're talking about program learning outcome assessment.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I've been trying to reach out to Cyan to see if geology would
create
a plan.
Right.
And I haven't gotten any feedback from her. And again, I know with physics, Terry is being kind enough to teach our physics this semester, but I don't think Jackie or he wants to be in the business of acting like RFP for physics, right? So I think physics, we're just going to have to hold off until maybe we get a permanent person. But it would be great if we could get geology going, at least as far as a plan. I mean, I don't know where to go from there,
Because it'd be difficult, I think, for anybody who doesn't directly teach some of those courses to come up with an assessment plan. It'd be very difficult.
Right.
So that was my first question. My other question is there specific follow-up that you want us to do on the plans that are already created?
Yes.
Is there a reporting structure that you have in mind?
Yes. Okay. Basically, when you created the biochemistry plan last fall, you had a calendar in that plan saying what you were going to assess. So all we need is another aligned assessment form filled out for whatever that PLO is. Okay. So basically, yes. And again, it's the aligned assessment form for whatever PLO or PLOs you're assessing. So the same deal as what you did in the fall, but for a different PLO.
And then when we come up with is this process written down somewhere, Marianne?
Yes.
I'll give you what you want. I just need to know,
Yes, the process is written down in our assessment handbook.
But with due dates and everything.
Again, it's pretty generic. In other words, once you kick off the program plan at the beginning of a 3-year period, then by the end of each semester, we need a program aligned assessment from you. Okay, so it's not a matter of by this date in the spring.
Before spring break.
Right, no. By the end of semester, pretty much, yeah. Liz, you have a question.
Thank you.
Thanks.
More of a comment, Marianne.
Sure.
When you gave me specific direction, that was super useful. So I think if you and Brian can say, here's exactly what we need help and say, reach out to us and say, Liz, please do this. Niall, please do this. That is really helpful because I'm happy to help, but I don't know exactly where you need me. So when you said, reach out to Corey and Noah, that was like, great, I can do that.
Okay. All right. Again, we're trying to avoid being like super directive to people because again, we realize you're not getting reassigned time for helping with assessment, not yet, but that might be
No.
coming.
Well, but
in the future.
I assume I'm speaking for people on the committee. We're very motivated to see this happen because we know the consequences of it not happening. So in my case anyway, please feel free to be directive. That's very useful to me.
Okay, I appreciate that feedback, Liz. Thank you. So again, in the large, the only thing we want to say about program learning outcome assessment is once we get the plans from everyone, the actual aligned assessment form has to be submitted at the end of every semester throughout the 6-semester period that the plan covers. Okay, that's pretty much what we need. Okay, and that's going to be our evidence to the HLC that we can sustain program learning outcome assessment, right? And not only that, but that's how we're going to make continual improvements to our program. We want to know if our students are actually achieving the outcomes that are part of our curriculum. Okay. Okay. Any other comments on assessment in general? Okay.
I do, Marianne.
Go ahead, Niall.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You mentioned about that document that needs to be turned in every semester.
Yes.
And maybe it would be helpful to put that as one of the resources at the top of the agenda that we're looking at.
Okay, we'll do that.
Great.
We can certainly do that. Okay. Again, part of the problem is we have a lot of things going on at once. We have program review. I know your division, MCL CTL, is in the process of coming up with their first drafts. And hopefully you have program learning outcome data from last semester that you can put in there. But yes, that's certainly something we can do. We can put the aligned assessment form in the resources. Part of the reason we cleaned it up a little was folks complained that there was so much stuff up there, they were losing track of what it all referred to.
Okay.
But that's certainly a fair comment. We can do that.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. We really appreciate your feedback, guys. I can't thank you enough for being, as Liz said, engaged and motivated. So the next thing we wanted to share was this concept of assessment fellows. Our vice president of academic affairs suggested that we have assessment fellows. Okay, and again, we have at the top of our agenda draft responsibilities for these folks. Okay, what assessment fellows are going to be hopefully paid helpers. In other words, you would get reassigned time for this role. And again, they're support people who are embedded in the various divisions. Okay, so it's not me and Brian going around and trying to meet one-on-one or onesies, twosies with everybody who's trying to do assessment or program review. We'd actually have people in each division who are trained to help the folks in their division. Okay, and so as you can see, this is a draft list of responsibilities that Alice has asked us to come up with. Okay, and again, this is based on structures in other colleges and universities for assessment fellows. Okay, so what we did was kind of a survey of what's out there and cobbled together a draft list of what these folks would be doing, what they'd be getting paid to do. Okay, so you can see what they involve would be mentoring, like one-on-one support to faculty on developing and implementing their assessment plans. Okay, helping faculty align course learning outcomes, program learning outcomes, and institutional outcomes. Okay, again, we realize this requires professional development, and Alice also realizes it requires professional development. Okay, faculty sometimes struggle with analyzing the data that comes out of assessment. Okay, so we would ask assessment fellows to either assist with that or help reach out and get other resources involved in assisting faculty with the data analysis and interpretation. Because to be honest, just collecting data isn't terribly useful. We want to be able to analyze the data and use it to make changes. Okay, other responsibilities would be being a liaison between the programs that you're actually mentoring or overseeing and this committee. Okay, we're hopeful that some of you folks that are already on the committee will consider being an assessment fellow. Okay, and again, the other piece would be making sure we get the documentation that's necessary to support our program review and our program learning outcome assessment to the HLC. In other words, help us collect the evidence. All right. So again, this is our draft list. Does anybody have comments, concerns, additions, questions, anything? Okay, and please just unmute yourself because like I said, I can't see the hands when they go up. Anybody comments? Everybody happy with it? Okay, pretty much. Anybody have anything that is bothering you about it?
Marianne, I'll jump in. I think it's a really good idea. I think people need an ally that has the training and the ability to support them in this process, that they have more ready access to, and then that can be sort of your crack team to make sure that things are getting done and that people have the support that they need. I think it's a great idea, and I'm really glad that Alice is gonna support it with some reassigned time. That is necessary. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. We'll be the first ones to agree with that. These are pretty much the tasks that Brian and I do, but we're trying to do it for all of our program faculty all at once. So our role will still be doing this, but we won't be doing it so much one-on-one. We'll be kind of helping the assessment fellows do it one-on-one.
Marianne, I can't remember, does Alice have a date she wants us to get this to her by?
Alice was hoping to have this list after spring break.
So maybe since nobody's really commenting on any changes to this, and that's great, but we can leave it open, and then maybe right after spring break, Marianne, we can review it, and if nobody's come in and made comments on it or anything, we can just forward it on to Alice.
That sounds like a plan.
All right.
Anybody have any objections to that plan?
Do you have a question?
Okay, go ahead.
A couple of questions. About how many fellows are you thinking we will have?
I think it's one per division, isn't it?
I'm guessing 4 or 5. If I
Okay.
had to put a ballpark on it, Stephanie, I'm not sure what Alice has the resources to support. She hasn't shared anything with us about, funding.
Marianne,
So
I thought it was one per division at least.
One per division at least. Okay.
I mean, that
so-
makes sense to have one because each division's going to need one. So,
Right. So that would be 5.
okay.
Marianne, Marianne and Brian, I have another question. So I know the assessment fellows themselves will be trained, but are there any plans to also train just the general faculty in assessment and data analysis? Or is that going to be part of the responsibility of the assessment fellows to sort of walk them through that?
I would imagine that would be something that would happen down the road, but right now our focus is to get the fellows trained. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure Alice and Marianne would agree, anybody that gets trained at all on this is going to be an ally and someone that's going to be able to be beneficial. So I think just our focus right now is to get the fellows trained, though.
I would agree with Brian. I think that what the professional development Alice is planning for the spring is focused on generally getting faculty used to the new assessment process. Like you said, Yvette, it's written down, but folks are probably not going to chase down the handbook and read 50 odd pages. Okay. So what we've tried to do is to create videos or workshops where we can walk faculty through the process. We piloted it with our probationary faculty in the fall, and it's just a matter of rolling that out to faculty at large, okay, to kind of get folks on board with here's how you do an assessment plan, here's how you do the aligned assessment, these are the time frames you're going to do it in, okay? And we totally understand the frustration with not having infrastructure. We get that. We're also working that as a separate issue to have more support built into Canvas and possibly have some purpose-built assessment software so all of this doesn't live in Google Drive. Okay, we realize that's frustrating because you're doing a million other things, right? And to try to remember, okay, where's that form? When do I have to fill it out? That's irritating. I get that. And so we're trying to work as many things as possible at the same time, but we're trying to prioritize what we need so we have evidence, okay? And that's going to be our number one priority given our situation with HLC. Anything else, folks?
So yes, the training that the fellows will be getting, the new fellows, how intense do you expect that to be? Is that, a few days or just a short workshop, or can you say at this point?
At this point, we haven't actually developed it, but I would imagine that the hardest part of it is probably going to be, analyzing the data and drawing meaningful conclusions from it, especially if it's not in your field of expertise. Okay, that I would imagine is the hard thing. The next hardest thing is probably aligning your outcomes. Okay, the other stuff as far as communication, coordination, and reporting, most of the folks on this committee are already doing that. So I would imagine that would be less of a heavy lift. So to answer your question, Stephanie, I'm thinking a couple of workshops. It might even be a Canvas course. I don't think Alice plans on having fellows actually functioning until the fall. So it would give us some time to set up the content. But I can't imagine it would be super intense.
Thank you.
Any thoughts on that, Brian?
No, I think no, that was good.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll set aside the list of responsibilities. And as Brian said, we'll float it out again after break and see if there are any comments. All right, and let's see what else we have here. Okay. All right, the
program review charter.
Program review charter. Let's share that. Okay, so we have a charter outline. I'm going to share that with you. And again, what's a program review charter? Okay, this was something that came up when Brian and Alice and Kimberly and I attended, and Maria attended an HLC program review workshop in February. Okay, it was held in Center City, Phoenix. And it was the program review charter was something that the HLC facilitators actually recommended. Okay, and in other scenarios, like if you're actually running a project in a corporation, sometimes the project will actually have a charter that defines the scope of the project, what its goals are, who's responsible for what the timelines are, etc. Okay, and it's kind of like a set of ground rules for everybody who's participating. Okay, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, Yvette, like how do I know how all this is working? Okay, right now we have an assessment handbook that has the program review process in it. But what we're trying to do is to put it in a more, I guess, organized and systematic way. Okay. We could considerably, conceivably take this outline and make it part of the program review handbook. But it was, kind of suggested to us, why don't you work on the charter and then see how you can incorporate that into the assessment handbook? Okay. And one of the main reasons for coming up with this charter, if you take a look at this detailed schedule over here, okay, is getting it to feed into our other institutional processes. Right now, some of these processes are not working as they were designed to work. In particular, strategic planning, action planning, all of that stuff. That's what program review and program outcome assessment is supposed to feed into. Okay, as well as budgeting. You can see that here in January. Okay, and staffing. Okay, basically, I believe staffing is also something that happens in the fall. Yvette, correct me if I'm wrong about that. I know you're a Senate rep.
No, you're right. You're right.
Okay, so staffing should also be in this detailed schedule here. All right, and all of the stuff that we gather from program review, we need a mechanism to feed those insights into the rest of these processes. Okay, that mechanism's broken. Okay, it doesn't happen. And aside from not having that information to go forward with action planning, staffing, and budgeting, okay, the other problem it creates is with faculty who are actually doing the program reviews, their attitude is, what am I doing this for if you're just going to take the information in it and put it on a shelf somewhere? They want to see that we're actually using their information. Okay, so that's kind of the why for creating a program review charter. Anybody have any comments or discussion about that?
Marianne, was it your intention to open up the shell of the
Yes.
program review charter? Because we still just see the agenda.
Oh, you're just seeing the agenda. I am
Yeah.
so sorry. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Again, I'm not sure what I'm sharing here. I have the same thing on two screens. Can you see it now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So basically, here is what I was referring to. That's really weird. It's like it changed screens on me. Okay. So here's kind of what the charter has in it. You can see project definition, scope, goals, objectives, who's involved, what their responsibilities are, the timeline, etc. Okay, here's the detailed schedule I was referring to. Okay, we have action planning happening in September. We should probably also have, staffing discussions in here. Okay, and then in January is when the budget is finalized. Okay, so we can fill this out with whatever information we think program review needs to feed into in order for the folks doing these tasks to actually make reasonable decisions, right? We want them to have data to inform the choices that they're making. Okay, and then here's the charter outline. Okay, what goes in each of these sections. Okay, and a lot of these pieces actually came from the workshop that we attended, okay, that the HLC folks shared with us. Okay, and you can see the goals and objectives is to review the programs offered, to determine not only do we have the resources to offer them, but what is the community demand for our programs. Okay. This was a first pass at the people who were involved. Okay. I would also add to this section the assessment fellows. Okay.
Marianne, can I ask a
Yes.
basic question?
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Thanks. Will there be one South Mountain program review charter or more, like for the different departments or divisions?
No, this is one overarching document.
Okay.
That kind
A
of
general
like
one. Thank you.
right. We're trying to build infrastructure that
Right.
is there, but is not there in a way that's easily accessible by faculty.
Right,
Okay.
thank you.
As per Yvette's questions earlier in the meeting. Okay. There's a lot of frustration with, where is this now? Do I have to go back and find it in an email? Is it in a centralized place? We do have an assessment webpage, but it's we have to update that continually, right, as we make changes, and that does take some time to turn around. I mean, in all fairness to marketing, I mean, they have a load of things to do, so we try to batch our changes to the assessment website so they're not constantly getting updates from us.
And I would say too, Stephanie, that I don't see a need, and I could be wrong, but I don't see a need for each division to have a charter for program review. So if that's a thought, then, my perspective, I don't see a need for that.
Well, I would imagine they'd be similar enough, right, that you wouldn't need to create 5 separate documents.
Right.
Was somebody else going to chime in?
Marianne, this is Tim Budworth.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, just reviewing this and kind of going through, because Christine and I are kind of on the non-instruction program review task force kind of group, whatever. It's probably, I guess, in looking at this charter that you've developed, it's very specific to instructional program review, and it would probably be in our best interest if we developed a non-instructional program review charter that mirrors, I think, or probably follows some of the same criteria and components, just so that we're in alignment, rather than, unless you guys feel that it makes sense that we just do one and then incorporate different sections for non-instruction versus instruction. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I would imagine, Tim, you're right. Program review, as far as where program review is going to live, is kind of in flux right now. I know Alice, actually the president, said she wants this committee to handle the academic program review, and Christina approached the College Standards Committee to house the non-instructional program review there. Like I said, I know a subgroup is meeting, I think today, to discuss the structure, the oversight of program review. And I'm not sure if academic program review will move under the purview of the Academic Standards Committee or not. But I agree with you that I think the non-instructional side is different enough that a lot of this stuff like awards conferred, career placement, enrollment just doesn't apply. So, yeah, you might want to take the basic outline, like the 10 major categories, and then just put subcategories under there to suit the non-academic programs.
Okay, then as long as we got your okay to plagiarize your
Absolutely,
your
plagiarize
document
away.
and then kind of customize it. I think
Yeah.
it makes sense that the institution is somewhat aligned in the sense that we both have a charter. It has similar components and kind of follows a similar outline in that regard. I think probably is better that rather than us developing something completely separate or independent. So, okay.
Awesome. And again, just so you know, I mean, there is a program review webpage out there. And again, both the instructional and non-instructional side is represented there. So if we were to put this charter out there for the instructional side, hopefully someone would put the non-instructional charter out there too. So at least we look somewhat symmetric, even if we're not the same.
Tim,
Agreed.
we had a saying when I was an auditor, beg, borrow, and steal. Don't reinvent the wheel. Take what we have and make it your own. I have no problem with that at all.
Oh yeah,
Awesome. Thanks.
for sure. Any other comments on the structure of this? Okay, again, if you've ever seen a project charter in a corporation, it pretty much has similar sections. The subsections are not so much, okay, but the general sections.
Marianne, can you just talk a little bit more about how this is going to align with that handbook?
Basically, the idea is going to be, Yvette, is this charter would probably replace the section in the handbook that now describes the program review process, right? Because this is going to have all the components you need, right? Like What is program review? What does it involve? What are the goals of it? Who is involved and what are their responsibilities? What's the timeline? All of that stuff. Okay. So rather than it being like spread out through about 30 of 54 pages, it'll just be in this, the charter document will probably take its place.
Because I just think it might, for some people, might get confusing to have two documents that they then have to refer to. But if
Well,
this
it
is
won't
just
be.
more a synthesized version of, good, sorry.
Right. Yeah, no, it wouldn't be. I totally agree. The less number of files we have to search through, the better. But isn't that your understanding, Brian? Is this would replace what's in the handbook on the program review process?
Yeah, that's my understanding. That we shouldn't have 2 or 3 different competing documents. So
Right.
even if it wasn't my understanding, it makes sense to make that happen.
Right. Right. Exactly. So basically, what we need from this group is we kind of need your help in filling in the sections. Okay. I mean, Brian and I can certainly take the lead on this. We do have a lot of the information already in our handbook. Okay. But basically, the handbook is written kind of like a narrative with figures and tables interspersed. Okay. And this is going to be, as you can see, a little bit more structured. So, our hope was, and again, Alice did say, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, Alice did say there would be some funding to work on this over the summer. Did you hear her say that?
I believe I remember that, yes.
Okay, so anybody up for doing that?
I am.
Again, I am too. But again, it's much better if it's not just 2 people. The more eyeballs that are involved, the better. But again, we understand you might not be in a position to say right now, but just remember, this is an ask we're putting out there. We would like to have more of you involved in filling this out. Okay. I think a lot of the problem with assessment in the past has been it's been pretty much a 2-person show. Okay. And that kind of constraints, I mean, whatever's going to go in here is limited to what Brian and I know. Okay. A lot of you are involved in lots of other areas, so you know other stuff. And we want to kind of tap into your expertise. Okay. So it's not narrow. Okay. So basically, again, we would like to put that ask out there. All right. To kind of let you know we're looking for volunteers to help us fill in this outline. And again, that would mean that we would have a somewhat completed first draft of the charter by the end of the summer. Yes, Yvette, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, for me, it might be helpful. So you said that this was a structure that some other institutions already have in place. It might be helpful for me to see some of those because I'm having trouble envisioning where this is going to all fit in and what exactly it is that's necessary to go in this document apart from what's in the handbook. And so that might help just anchor it for me a little bit if I could see a different institution and what they've done with it.
Right.
The other thing is, I know that sort of the idea was kind of glossed over, but I do think that we should think about having assessment and even program review language within the division charters.
Oh, that's a
Because
great idea.
because those division charters really help the direction of the division. And then that would allow you to really like reinforce program review and assessment, but also be able to customize what you like. The divisions would be able to customize what they feel is appropriate for their program reviews and assessment within reason. Like they're not going to be like, no, we can't do program reviews, but here's sort of what we need. But I think that might help, like I said, anchor it in the fact that we have assessment fellows coming in now. All of that, I think, should go into eventually probably even the college plan, but for sure the division charters.
That's a great idea, Yvette. And again, like I said, your experience with this is valuable because you understand the whole shared governance structure and all. all that stuff that yes, we should connect this to what already exists. Okay, we don't want it floating out there, okay, by itself. Because if that's the case, then most people are probably going to not even know it exists. So thank you for that. Anybody, anything else? Just realize we will be cycling back to ask you again. All righty, so let me close the charter. Oops. And you, hopefully everybody is seeing the agenda again. Is that what you're seeing? Okay, good. All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As far as discussion, I think we've kind of discussed program learning outcome assessment. We've discussed the assessment fellows and the program review charter. Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up that you think this committee needs to address? Nothing. Okay, no hands up. Okay. Then as far as other items, and I'm going to pull you in on this, Tim, since you were in the meeting. Tim and I met with the assessment co-chairs from Chandler Gilbert Community College, and it seems that they are about 1 year in to using a product called HelioCampus for their assessment. Okay. We currently have HelioCampus also is usable for strategic planning, action planning, as well as building your assessment, your accreditation arguments, similar to SPOL. But again, I think HelioCampus was chosen because it was a little bit more, I hate to use the word intuitive, but let me use that word, a little bit more intuitive for folks to navigate. So the assessment chairs from Chandler Gilbert spent about 45, 50 minutes with us going through the things that they encountered in getting HelioCampus up and running, as well as things like cost. I'm gonna defer to Tim initially. Tim, what did you take away from that meeting? They've been listening to me talk for about 40 minutes already.
Oh, you're doing a fantastic job, Marianne. I guess my takeaway was it sounds like a tool that helps really organize assessment, program review, and then if you wanted to then incorporate action planning and so forth. That's really what this tool helps you kind of have a repository, a common place where things are at, and use it to really manage the overall process. They didn't show us, any examples or anything like that of the tool itself. They really just talked more of a high level, I think. The other takeaway that was a little bit surprising to me is, like Marianne said, that they're 1 year into this particular project that they think is a implementation kind of configuration is going to take several years for them to really get up and running. So it's not a quick install it, flip the switch on, and then we're rocking and rolling really quick with it. It sounds like there's a lot of effort that has to go into really kind of developing, structuring the hierarchy of it, how programs are put into it. They even had suggested at some point that they would have preferred to do the non-instructional side of the program review kind of into it to kind of really see how the hierarchy could be structured and set up. But they went the opposite way and kind of, I think, some of the lessons learning in that regard. So the good things about it, I think the fact that Chandler Gilbert is kind of, I think, learning from their mistakes, and hopefully they would be willing to share with a lot of that as if it's something that we go down that path, and so that we don't have to do those same mistakes and learn the hard way, like I think some of the things that they're doing. But there is, I think, upon acquisition of it, there's an integration cost kind of component that they help integrate it and set it up and configure and so forth. So it's not just we buy it and then we have to we're left on our own. There's a lot of, I think, help in that regard. And I think that they've learned a lot through working with Chandler Gilbert and Maricopa campus, right? That they've adjusted and tweaked the tool to fit some of our needs. So that was good. Sounded like Scottsdale is getting ready to start an implementation of it as well. So if we decide to go down that path, we'll be able to kind of maybe learn from them as well. And then the last thing that my takeaway was, because it offers strategic planning as well, and because there's a cost associated with this particular tool, there's a potential that we eliminate the licensing we buy from SPOL, because it is pricey and it really only does one component, so to speak, or we use it for one component. And I think that we could justify using the Helios to do action planning by eliminating SPOL, but that's just kind of, that's still to be determined, and there's some vetting for that. But that was, I guess, my overarching assessment or takeaway.
Thanks, Tim. I mean, that's pretty much what my takeaway was as well. Yeah, there's definitely cost associated with this. It's modular, a lot like SPOL is, and it's possible extra modules cost extra. But I agree that, yeah, I mean, that it's probably better if we can use it for everything, not only to have a one-stop shop, but then hopefully all the components will talk to each other. In other words, what comes out of the assessment piece can feed into the action planning piece, can feed into the accreditation piece, et cetera. So we don't have, like I said, a whole bunch of spreadsheets in Google Drive. Okay, we kind of want to get away from that model, because not only is it hard to administer, but it's I mean, as far as ongoing like sustainability, it's a nightmare. Okay, so yeah. Obviously, we're going to have to speak with the VPAA about this, you know, and figure out what the next step would be. I'm a little bit daunted by the folks in Chandler Gilbert, the two assessment co-chairs, saying that it was them and one person from IT. Did you get that drift there? One person from IT doing the work. Now, Jeremy Tuddy, who is one of the assessment chairs, is also the director of their CTL. So he's kind of a double dipper. So he was able to create the PLOs that went into Canvas, right? We are still missing that piece, okay, as far as having a file of PLOs that you can access as outcomes in Canvas and pull them into your grading rubrics. That would make life a whole lot easier for faculty, and it would also affect the stream of analytics that comes out of Canvas, hopefully into HelioCampus. Okay, so we need to identify all of these data flows, okay, and find out like what do we need to have in place first. Okay, I was at a very interesting meeting that was put together by Jim Waugh, who is the director of institutional research at Estrella Mountain. Yesterday, he invited all of the assessment folks district wide to come, as well as the IR people. And he has another method for getting assessment data out of Canvas. It doesn't involve HelioCampus. Basically, what he's done is analyze the database layout in Canvas. It has recently changed. And he's actually literally pulling the data out of that directly into Tableau dashboards. Okay. Again, it would be nice if we had some district level guidance as to, you know, what would be the best approach. Because right now, some of our sister campuses are creating their own software. They literally are having their own IT department write software for them and maintain it. Others, as Tim mentioned, are moving towards vendor provided software like HelioCampus, and others like Estrella Mountain are pretty much diving right into Canvas, pulling out the data and getting it into Tableau directly. I don't know what your opinions are, okay, but that might be worth having, say, a 2-minute discussion. We're getting close to 11, so again, I don't want to run over, but what are your thoughts on all this? Anybody have anything?
Marianne, this is Liz.
Yeah. Hi, Liz.
I'm all for any tools that are going to help us do this. If we're already paying something for something that does not offer as wide a range of support, we should ditch that and get the thing that does.
Right. Even if it takes a couple of years to get us there.
Everything's going to take us a couple of years.
Right. I just want
Let's
to
end
make
up with
sure
some good tools.
right. Everybody, you have to realize we're going to have two systems running in parallel, right? We're going to be working on getting
Mhm.
HelioCampus working while we're doing the good old spreadsheets in Google Drive, because we can't stop doing what we're doing while we implement HelioCampus.
I understand, but I mean, it sounds like a better product that would be better for us in the long run.
If
I
it's
agree.
better, if it's more user-friendly than Spool, like that right away, you sold me. Because that thing is the nightmare, right? And
It's
so,
very
I mean, as
clunky.
long as it's not some overly complex system that we then have to learn the system to be able to be productive, like, because Spool is, and I don't know what's happening with my camera, so I'm gonna turn it off.
Okay.
But Spool is, you know, they say it's user-friendly, but I did not find it to be user-friendly.
It is not user friendly. Both Brian and I we're system administrators in the assessment module, which we paid for, but we're not using till Brian and I got in there, and we created our own programs in there. Okay, with program data, with program reviews. And we, for the life of us, can't figure out a way how to get that data over to the planning module. So if we can't do that, what's the point? Okay, so I mean,
Did you say, or did I, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Did you say, or did I imagine it that it integrates with Canvas?
Yes, yes, it does.
Oh, that's
HelioCampus and SPOL both
huge.
integrate with Canvas, but again, you
Mhm.
know, it's a matter of what is involved in getting that data flow across, and what shape does it have to be in? How hard is it to get it out? We need cooperation from our CTL. You know, this is not all on IT. Okay, we need a whole bunch of collaboration going on to make this happen. Yes, Liz.
Well, I just I agree. I agree with Yvette, and I think we do have to look at the long run, and I think we also have to accept the limitations of any one person or department. So whatever we can do to make this easier for everyone in the long run, I think we should do.
Right. My main concern is sustainability of the process. I
Yeah.
mean, even just based on some of the comments and questions you've raised in this meeting, it's obvious to me that if Brian and I had to hand this off to two other people to run, it would be painful for them. Okay. And we kind of want to minimize that pain point. Okay. And I think having more of an infrastructure would be better. Okay. And anything else before we end the meeting?
Marianne, I have two quick things.
Sure, Niall, go ahead.
Okay, so the draft of our program review is due the first day after spring break. Is that something as a guideline for ourselves, or do we turn that in?
Basically, what you would wind up doing is just email your draft program review to me and Brian.
Okay.
And what we do is we go through it for completeness. Like, we're in no position to review your program. Okay, but we're just looking to make sure you have the right stuff in every part of the template. Okay, and then we let Alice know, yes, we've gotten a first draft, we're good. If we provide feedback to you, you know, like we'll put it in Google Drive so we can make comments and you can see the comments. Okay, then basically you can make those changes or not as you see fit. But then at the end of the semester, we're going to want a final draft, something that would be able to be shared with the program review board.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Second thing is, in our last meeting, we talked about reviewing the instructional documents and non-instructional documents for program review. Are we going to get back to that? Because I feel that there are a lot of improvements that could be made to the template that we're all going to be using.
Okay, well, we made a round of improvements, okay, currently, okay, and those were shared with the Academic Affairs Council, only for the academic template. Okay, we incorporated your comments for one, Niall. Yvette made comments. Okay, so basically that was what we changed.
Okay.
If you have other changes, okay, we'd have to go through another round of, you know, showing that to everybody, and then getting it on the next VPAA Council's agenda.
Okay. I
Okay.
think there are a lot of superfluous items that are on there that really are not actionable. You know, it's great for us to talk about things, but unless they're actionable, I don't see the point in us doing that. And also, the template is very much, it's open. So there are areas that I could write 10 pages, whereas
We went and
is that going to be
changed that,
valuable?
Niall. We basically changed that, and we said 1 or 2 paragraphs in each
Sweet.
section.
Okay.
Okay,
That's
so
huge,
yeah,
Marianne. That's
it
huge.
is huge.
Thank
We
you for
kind of
that.
want this to be like 10 pages or less. I mean, take pity
Okay.
on the program review board that has to read like maybe 10 of 12 of these things at a time. So yes, the idea, what's the most important thing in your program review is, for sure, have data on enrollment, completion, success, and graduation and transfer rates. That's the data. Okay, but the most important thing is your analysis of that data. What trends do you see in the data? What does that mean for your program? Okay. Unfortunately, the equity section has been taken out per the chancellor's email. Okay, so that section is no longer there. I think there's a continuous improvement section in there, but again, keep your sections reasonable. Okay, you don't need to write a thesis. Okay, but basically, yeah, we can keep revising the template. But I think probably for spring 25, we're done. Okay, and any more changes you want to make going forward, we can certainly discuss those at future meetings. Okay,
Okay. Thank you, Marianne.
makes sense.
Great.
Anybody, anything else? Okay, I'm gonna stop our recorder.